biggest psychological damage of comparing your child to others. Have you ever said something like, "Why can't you be like your cousin?" Or, "Look at your friend, they're doing better than you"? It may feel like harmless motivation, something parents say out of love or frustration. But what if those words are quietly shaping your child's identity in ways you don't see yet? What if that comparison is not pushing them forward, but slowly breaking something inside them? Many parents don't realize that comparison doesn't inspire excellence. It often plants seeds of insecurity, resentment, and emotional distance. Imagine a child who comes home with a score of 70, proud of their effort, only to hear, "Your classmate got 90." In that moment, their pride disappears. Instead of feeling accomplished, they feel small. Instead of feeling seen, they feel invisible. Over time, this pattern teaches the child a dangerous belief: I am never enough. And that belief doesn't just stay in childhood. It follows them into adulthood, affecting relationships, confidence, and even career choices. One of the biggest psychological damages of comparison is the destruction of self-worth. When a child is constantly measured against others, they stop seeing their own unique strengths. A child who is naturally creative may begin to feel worthless because they are not as academic as another child. A child who is kind and empathetic may feel they have no value because someone else is more outspoken or bold. Instead of growing into who they truly are, they start trying to become someone else. And in that process, they lose themselves. Another deep damage is anxiety and fear of failure. When children grow up being compared, they begin to associate love and acceptance with performance. They start thinking, if I don't do as well as others, I will disappoint my parents. This creates pressure, not motivation. For example, a child who loves drawing might stop drawing entirely because they feel they can never be as good as someone else. A child who once enjoyed learning may begin to fear tests, not because they don't understand, but because they are afraid of being compared again. This kind of fear can lead to perfectionism, where the child feels they must be perfect or not try at all. It can also lead to avoidance, where they stop putting effort into things just to escape the pain of comparison. Comparison also damages the parent-child relationship in ways that are often overlooked. When children constantly hear that others are better, they begin to feel emotionally distant from their parents. Instead of seeing their parent as a safe place, they see them as a source of judgment. For instance, a child who is always compared to a sibling may start to resent both the sibling and the parent. They may withdraw, become quiet, or even act out, not because they are difficult, but because they feel unseen and unaccepted. Over time, communication breaks down, and the child may stop sharing their struggles altogether, choosing silence over criticism. Another serious effect is the development of jealousy and unhealthy competition. Instead of celebrating others, the child begins to see others as threats. If you constantly tell a child that their friend is better, they won't admire that friend. They will feel inferior or even resentful. This can affect their ability to build healthy relationships in the future. Imagine a child who grows up believing that someone else's success automatically means their failure. That mindset creates adults who struggle with teamwork, friendships, and even romantic relationships because they are always comparing, always competing, and never feeling secure. There is also the issue of identity confusion. Every child is different, with their own pace, talents, and personality. When you compare them, you send a message that who they are is not enough. For example, if a quiet child is constantly compared to a more outgoing child, they may try to force themselves to be loud and social, even if it doesn't feel natural. This creates internal conflict, where the child feels disconnected from their true self. Over time, they may struggle to understand who they really are, what they enjoy, and what they are good at, because they have spent so much time trying to fit into someone else's mold. Comparison can also lead to low motivation in a very surprising way. Many parents believe that comparison will push their child to do better, but often it does the opposite. When a child feels they can never measure up, they may stop trying altogether. They think, no matter what I do, it will never be enough. This is especially common when the comparison is constant and harsh. For instance, if a child is always told they are not as smart as their sibling, they may eventually give up on studying, not because they can't learn, but because they have already accepted failure as their identity. On the emotional level, comparison can create deep sadness and even depression. Children may not always express it in words, but they feel it. They feel the disappointment, the rejection, the pressure. A child who is constantly compared may start to feel like they are a burden, like they are not making their parents happy. This emotional weight can show up as withdrawal, irritability, or even anger. Some children become overly quiet and withdrawn, while others become rebellious, but both reactions are rooted in the same pain, the feeling of not being enough. So what can parents do instead? The first step is to shift from comparison to recognition. Instead of saying, "Look at what others are doing," focus on your child's effort and progress. For example, instead of saying, "Your friend did better," you can say, "I see how hard you worked on this and I'm proud of your effort." This builds confidence and encourages growth without damaging self-worth. Another powerful approach is to celebrate individuality. Every child has something special about them, whether it's creativity, kindness, curiosity, or resilience. When you highlight these qualities, you help your child see their value beyond comparison. You teach them that they don't need to be like anyone else to be worthy. It's also important to create a safe emotional space where your child feels accepted, even when they fail. Let them know that mistakes are part of learning, not something to be ashamed of. When children feel safe, they are more likely to try, to grow, and to believe in themselves. In the end, the goal is not to raise a child who is better than others, but to raise a child who is confident, secure, and true to themselves. Because when a child believes "I am enough," they don't need comparison to succeed. They grow naturally, boldly, and with a sense of purpose that no comparison can ever give them.